Okay.
So hi, I'll go ahead and start. This is Dana Peterson. I have a son, Charlie. He's 19. He's in the 18 to 21 program in the DeSoto School District. And he's medically fragile, has autism, some behavioral challenges, and needs one-on-one supervision and support. And I'm really here tonight to find out if there's any places that really support that level of care that he will need. So far, what I've seen out in the community, I'm not terribly excited about. I just think that there's a gap for people who are medically fragile or who have profound disabilities. And so that's kind of why I'm here tonight.
So I'm Michelle and this is Eddie, and we have twin boys that are 23, both pretty nonverbal and on the low end of the autism spectrum. And we are also trying to figure out where they fit into the normal residential / even day programs. We're having a really hard time finding something for Sean. William is all set to go, but that's why we are here to hopefully hear that there is hope, that there is something out there for kids that are on the lower end of the spectrum that have a little more issues than other young people.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for that, both of you. I want to just maybe reiterate that maybe we won't find the answers tonight, but that is why we want to kick this off, right? So that we can get together and do some information gathering, and then eventually get some of those residential services into join us in these meetings, and just help us out with sharing their information. So thank you for that.
Hey, Marna. My name is Laura. I've got a 19-year-old son who's got tuberous sclerosis. So he is epileptic, autistic, no CD. Fairly, I'll call him high functioning for a 6-year-old, if that's possible, because he's 19. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be appropriate to have like someone from a case manager perspective to attend one of these meetings. Because they may have some of the answers that the rest of us don't have. You know, like I'm not even sure when we start looking at residential for Jackson. I know it's still a little early at this point. But I do know there's resources out there once he gets through the 18 to 21-year-old program to go into a day program, and then at some point into the residential. And so it might be we want to even step back and say, okay, what are the resources post high school and forward?
Start looking into day programs now. We missed a year because of COVID, and that's part of the rough start for Sean. So start looking now. And with the behavioral issues that we're experiencing with Sean right now, I will tell you, he's been trial runs on 3-day programs and bounced from all 3. And what we are being told is that when you have someone, there are additional services that can help an individual transition into a day program if they have behavioral issues. But in the meeting we just had, I think it was just a few days ago, they said that the paperwork is enormous for the day service program to apply for those services, and it almost isn't worth their time and effort to do.
So was he in a program post high school, like an 18 to 21-year-old program?
Yes, he was. We were in Blue Valley, and so he was at the Access House.
That's where we're at.
Yeah, COVID hit in their final semester of that program, so we really did not get to transition.
So do you have a day program for him now?
For William, we do, but not for Sean. We've tried, as I said, we've tried 3, and because of his behavioral issues and because they say they deal with behavioral issues, and all 3 of them, I don't think he lasted more than a day.
And that's what I've heard from our case manager, is that that's a big red flag for all of these day programs is behavioral issues because of the amount of paperwork involved to get the necessary supports in place. it's not worth their time. And so, and then for some of these places that cater, they don't provide one-on-one support without that extra funding. Your child needs to be able to be in a group setting safely, navigating what they're doing during the day, which is not my situation here. And some of the places have years of wait lists too. So if you find one that you think is a good fit, they might have a wait list because there's not all of them are good.
Bev Williamson might be a good resource to have on here.
Yeah, she needs to.
I think that because she works with a parent organization representing their kids that are in residential care. So she is very familiar with the programs that are out there and available and all of the things, the hoops that you need to jump through. So she would be a good resource. I figured that somebody like that would be presenting tonight.
Yeah, she has a daughter, Abby, who's
right.
in a group home.
No,
She knows a little bit more about
yeah,
it.
so my name's Lee Davis, and I'm sorry. Yeah, so my name's Lee Davis, and this is my wife Kelly. We've been coming to Church of the Resurrection for some years. Our son is Elliot. He's 14, and then our daughter Elise is going to be 11. And and then Jen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sorry, just serving dinner in between. Hi, my name's Jen Nagabar, and I am friends with Kelly. And I have identical twin boys that are 15, and we're in the Blue Valley School District. They're more severe on the autism spectrum, and they are nonverbal. So I think, we have been talking to quite a few people, and I'll let you tell everyone about what our mission is. But
Sure.
I think it's hearing just a few of you speak. I think we're all on the same page here, and hopefully we can pull our resources together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd reached out. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, hi. I'm new to this group here. I know most of these people, and my friend Shailaja, gave me this information, and I reached out. And I have my son is 20-year-old, and he's autistic, nonverbal, and he is currently in the 1821 program in Blue Valley. But for the last few months, we kept him home because we have elderly people at home, and we couldn't risk it. So, but he is getting therapy at home, and I'm working with him intensively. And but he is like a 3-4-year-old, maybe mental stage, and he uses iPad. So as the school is ending, like we are approaching that stage, we are worried about the day services. And since he's very low functioning and with behavior and everything, his OCD, so we are really worried that where would he fit in? Who would take this kind of, where would he be safe? Because he doesn't have any safety concerns or fear of danger or anything. So that's why I reached out here, and I'm sure it will be very helpful for me to hear all of you if you have any idea. And in near future, we are looking for residential facility too, but not right now. Right now, we are looking for the day services that will fit him. So
No, that's good. So we had reached out to Marna about, so we had been working on some ideas that we've had going for quite some time. And, in the email, I think you saw a group called Autism Grows. And actually that was a nonprofit organization that Kelly and I started some years ago. It's kind of a little bit defunct right now, and just one of those things that we had to kind of revive. But and really what this was, it was predicated on is kind of all the things that you and I, that we're all dealing with right now, with the special needs, with autism in particular. And, how do you solve that conundrum, right? After age 18, 21, when they become adults, and then even beyond that, right? When we are not here, who's going to take care of them, right? Who's going to, yeah, you can set up trusts and funds and everything else, But really our biggest worry was like, who's going to take care of him? Who's going to make sure
Exactly.
that things are done that are particular to him. And so as parents, we started really kind of thinking about this. And so Jen and we've been friends for a long time. We've known Jen for many years. Our boys, our boy and her boys started at Leanne Britton, I don't know, 14 years ago. So we've known them that long. And, we're in the same boat, just like everyone else. But anyway, we had reached out to kind of by circumstance to one of our county commissioners. And we were talking about some stuff, and we had brought up the whole fact that, listen, there is no facility for adults who have severe autism or have autism and other disabilities, because as we all know, it's probably not just always autism, it's something else added to it, that reside in Johnson County or in the state of Kansas. There was only a handful of them. Our son went to Lake Mary for some time, and Lake Mary, at least the adult portion of that it's an 8 to 10 year wait. So think about, the thousands of kids and then adults that are probably on that waiting list. And so anyway, we talked to Commissioner and to Commissioner Becky Fast. She's not even in our district, but she said, you know what? I didn't know that this was really an issue. We had no idea. So I think it's much like, I think we can all relate, or at least Jen and us, we can relate in the fact that it's kind of an understated issue, meaning that not many people are advocating from it. We are always, and I know we can all relate to this, we haven't taken a vacation in like years, right? You just can't. I mean, you just cannot do that, right? And even from an economic standpoint, I mean, there are sometimes, paras or babysitters that won't take care of our child because either they're too big or they become too violent or they have issues, so on and so forth. But anyway, she pulled in another commissioner, and they're like, you know what? This is a great idea. This is something that maybe we need to take a look at. And some of the things that he started talking to us about were pretty exciting. The current administration in the state of Kansas, they are now relooking at some legislation at this time. They're looking at, so there is an autism voucher per se. I know we all know about the IDD and all these other, vouchers that are out there that take 10 years to take to get. The reality is that they're going through some reconstruction of that. They're looking at from a legislative perspective and saying, you know what, we probably need to simplify the process. We've got an issue here. There are some advocates that are in legislation that are looking at this and want to proceed. And then in addition to that, there are some organizations within Johnson County that also are interested and that are wanting to pursue it. Really, the reason why we're here is not just to inform you of all this, but really to create consensus. Because the biggest thing that we need from everyone in this room is for us to advocate. I know we advocate on a daily basis for our children, okay? But really what's going to speak is going to our commissioners organized in legislatures of saying, listen, these are our issues. This is what we have. What they told us, which I thought was kind of amazing, was that they're like, we were just telling them our story, me sleeping on the couch for 3 years, So my son's eloped 13 times. We had to put bolts on the door. He's jumped into lakes. At Lake Mary, he jumped into the freezing lake. They had to put a gate around. I mean, all these stories that we all can relate with, right? And it's not unique. They're like, that's incredible. You really need to take your story and talk to these people in Topeka. You need to talk to these commissioners in your district and tell them, because the commissioners are the ones that have the money. They're the ones who hold the money for mental illness, they're the ones who release it. So they have, really they have a lot of power. So, our mission statement's really pretty simple. We want to maintain, we want to go for, our goal is to create residential care for autistic children or adults, and then also create workshops around that, working workshops. So they're not just sitting at home, not doing anything, playing on iPads or whatever, that they actually have constructive things that they can do, but in the sense of it's spearheaded by trained staff that's paid well, because right now we're going through helpers. We have to supplement that because helpers gets paid $11.07 an hour. That's before taxes. Do you think anyone's going to work for $11.07 an hour? When you go to McDonald's, you get paid more than that. So the reality is that that's what we're trying to advocate and legislate for, is that these things need to be fixed. You're going to have a big issue later on. We gave them some numbers, some estimates. We're getting numbers from Blue Valley. I think we're getting some numbers from Shawnee Mission School District in regards to giving some empirical data of saying, here are the numbers of adults that are going to have, that are autistic and that will be in the system. Autistic, at least our children were never, they're not going to move to Utah. They're not going to move to Denver on themselves. They're going to be here, for the rest of their lives. And so it's going to be, I wouldn't say an issue, it's going to be a challenge from a public resource perspective if they don't have some sort of program in place. So anyway, that's, I'll shut up with that. I mean,
well, Becky Bass, one of the commissioners.
Could I make a
has stated
statement?
that-
Okay. This
Sure.
is Gail. I'm older than most of you. I do have a son with severe autism and all the, basically I don't think of him as anything but Rusty. That's his name. And he's got these conditions. He's hard to put in a box, but I've been around the block a little bit. I sit on a subcommittee or sub board for Johnson County. It's called JCDS, Johnson County Developmental Supports. And they are the single point of entry for any one of us who wants to find support systems, providers, case managers, anybody else. So if you haven't talked to them, that is the Johnson County node to start your learning about this. And I have testified before the commissioners on several occasions. They years ago decided to dedicate mill levy money for a facility for people with developmental disabilities. That's maybe in the 1960s. And they have spent all their dedicated money on this one organization, Johnson County Developmental Supports, which has they are not only a provider, they also, as I said, oversee all the other people, all the other providers in Johnson County. And they help with crisis issues and so forth. So I would recommend that you start there. Secondly, I wanted to say that I have also advocated for other affiliates, because those affiliates don't receive any money directly from Johnson County. Johnson County has decided that they will only support an organization over which they have control. Otherwise, there would be huge liability. So if they give money to, say, people who go to Lake Mary or to CLO or to whatever any of these others are, they can give the money, but they don't have any control over what they do. So they consider that a legal liability. I have said, well, I've argued with that a million times, and so have several other people who have come and gone talking to the county. I think it's great that you talked with Becky Fast. She's my representative there and my commissioner, and she has a fresh look at it. But I'm telling you that, you know, you need to talk to her about how can we testify before the whole county commissioners, before that board,
Yeah.
before you know, to help get the lay of the land. And then secondly, right now, because the state of Kansas has become so stingy with the money for developmental disabilities, including autism, that many of our providers are going out of business. And on this call with me is, I don't see him, Ron Fugate. Ron, I can't see you. Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm on
Okay.
the laptop right now because
Gotcha.
my computer crashed.
Okay, Ron and I and another gentleman started an advocacy group about 4 years ago. And we went to the legislature several times and spoke with the Johnson County delegation. We have spoken with the key decision makers to ask them to adequately fund all these providers, because right now the providers lose money on almost every person that they accept. So many of them are not accepting new people at all, and only will accept someone to fill a space that has been vacated. So my advice is, Ron and I and another gentleman named Jim Huber have started a new organization that comprised families of children with disability, with autism and other developmental disabilities. And we are in the midst of sending letters and hopefully helping to write bills in the legislature, or at least guide them, because for the last 20 years, the Kansas legislature has not given a rate increase to our providers. 11 years. And during all that time, the consumer price index has gone up maybe 14 or 15%. So our providers are starving. They don't give much more than $11.50 an hour themselves. And they're not getting enough money. The money for developmental disabilities comes 60% from the federal government, from Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. They give that money to the states, and typically the states fund the another 40% to make up for all the funding. That funding is way inadequate, and the state is not, until recently, has pled poverty. They just don't have enough money for us. And one of the things they realize is that it would take maybe $80 million every year to adequately fund the people who are already in service and a portion of those who we want to come off the waiting list. The waiting list is obscene, and other states do not have waiting lists. So Kansas is a little behind here. I hate to be so negative, but what I think we need to do, and you are welcome to join us, is to get started on advocating for your child. I think at the Johnson County Commission, that's a good place, but I doubt they're going to allocate that type of money for providers in Johnson County. We try to go where the money is and where we have decision makers who can make these decisions, and that's at the state level. And I will leave it to Ron to discuss that later, because we have specific strategies. And I think that all of you would be very interested to see what goes on in Topeka and how we can advocate. And that's one of the things we do. But I have a son, as I said, he's 47. No, he's 49. And his staff has been severely cut because the organizations just don't have enough money. He's at Lake Mary, and Lake Mary does not have a 6-year waiting list. It's the wait list that has the time. When Lake Mary gets is presented with someone who has been funded out of the waiting list, then they will probably find a place for them in fairly rapidly. But it's not the providers who have the waiting list, it is the state. And so all of you, if you aren't already on that wait list, I recommend that you get on it. But I think most of all, what you should do is engage with JCDS and get yourselves case managers. Some of you may have that, but all of you need that. They are an independent group who can guide you through some of these issues.
So Gail, this is Laura. When you're saying, like Jackson's already, how do we say this? He's on the autism waiver already. So we already get in-home services for him, assuming I can find helpers. That's my big challenge right now at his age. Would you consider that then that we should have an easier time getting into some of these residential facilities when he gets older? Or are we still going to be on a different wait list? I've been trying to understand that.
That's a good question. There are different tranches or different silos for what we call HCBS money for community-based services in Johnson County and across the state. If you're on the IDD waiver, that's where we have the 4,000 people across the state waiting list. And in Johnson County, it's about 845 people on the wait list. And the average time to get off that wait list varies depending on how much money the state is willing to give. But in the last year, fewer than 50 people out of that 4,000 received money to get services. If you're on another waiver, I think there is just plain autism waiver. And I don't know what the wait list is there. What have they told you?
Well, no, we're through it. When we signed him up when he was about 2, it was a 7 to 8 year waiting list.
Okay.
So it's gotten longer. So I think we are considered on the IDD waiver because we're on through that autism waiver. We get home services. He's on Medicaid and all that. So I'm just trying to figure out then when do we start the process? Because we know that he's probably not going to go into a residential facility for a while. But when do you start that process? And are we already considered to be through that first hump?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I still don't know whether there's a separate autism wait list. I suspect you're on the main IDD wait list. And that wait list.
We're off of it. I think we're off of it because we're getting services. So that's good because he was on it, like I said. So
yeah.
On it when he was 2.
Okay, so you are getting some services and you have a case manager?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then you are, but you're not probably, it depends on how much money they'll give you, but when your child turns, let's say 20 years old and you're thinking, it's better for us and it's quite much better for him. That's what I believe, that he has, that he's not sitting in his parents' house on the couch, that he does have a program for him. That's when you need to get a lot more money for services. I know that the average cost of services at Lake Mary runs between $60,000 to $80,000 and can go up from there per year. And most parents can't afford that. Whether the wait list will then, or whether your son's being already served means he'll transfer seamlessly to that. I don't know. You could ask your case manager about that.
So I have info for that. If you are on an existing waiver, as long as you meet eligibility requirements for the other waiver services, you can get a transfer to waivers without any waiting.
Okay.
So for example, Dana and I both have kiddos that are on the TA waiver, which is the technology assistance waiver. Mm-hmm. That's for the more medically complex kids. So kids with medical devices. Our kid has a G-tube and or both of our kids have G-tubes. Dana, I hope it's okay. I'm sharing about Charlie.
I'm not on the TA waiver, remember?
I know. But we've talked about the transfer between the two for various reasons. And there is no wait list when you transfer as long as your case manager processes that paperwork.
Okay.
So just so you're aware of that. Hi, everybody. I'm Casey. Sorry, I hopped on a little late. I was also making dinner. I have 2 kids, one that's 11, medical complexity, brain injury at birth. My son was recently diagnosed with autism, but it is not severe. It's only level 1. I'm here mainly because I represent a lot of different families across Johnson County, but also the country, in doing financial and benefits and legal planning for kids with disabilities. Marna and I have known each other for a while. Dana and I are next door neighbors. So, and we're members of CORE. 2 things I wanted to offer. Lee and Kelly, we need to connect, because although it is very helpful to go directly to the commissioners, there are ways and channels that we can make greater impact by using, for example, the Kansas Developmental Disabilities Council. So the council is an independently appointed. I have a seat on that council. There are connections there politically that can be very, very helpful. And Dana also put in the chat that the Bob Bethel Committee.
Okay.
The Bob Bethel Committee is the oversight committee for all HCBS services that is comprised of legislators across the state that listen to families like ours. So testimonies are happening regularly there. That's also a great place. I just think, like, if we're not organizing and everybody's sort of doing their own little group or their own little thing, it's going to be less powerful. We also have a disabilities group that goes and tells.
I agree with that, and for that reason, we invite you to join our group, which it's all, we've spoken at Bethel, we've testified at Bob Bethel. We have we're making contacts with our legislators. What we think is that one of our key champions is a guy named Troy Waymaster, and he's not even in our Johnson County district. He is from Russell, Kansas. But he has a real soft spot for our group. And so we have a meeting set up, I believe, to talk with him specifically, but we also have a writing campaign, and it's been very successful. And again, Ron is really spearheading this. So Ron, if you want to just jump in, I think we would be so happy to include all of you in our organized legislative.
Okay, what's the name of your organization?
Well, it's called Lake Mary Family Association, but it's not a part of Lake Mary. It's just because we know one another, and we're meeting to try to solve these problems that you're talking about. Ron, I'm going to leave that to you to discuss, but my goodness, Ron can send you all sorts of letters that our people have sent recently to legislators and gotten responses. And there is a real hard cliff past which nothing is going to get done at the legislature, and that's about the middle of February. By that time, all the bills have been written. They should be passing out of committees and going to be put in the budget or not put in the budget. And it's highly political, obviously. Ron, are you able to send some?
Yes, I would like maybe to jump in at this point. And introduce myself. I'm Ron Fugate. I'm on my wife's laptop because my desktop just crashed a while ago on Zoom, so I have a backup. So I'm Ron. I happen to be a care minister at Church of the Resurrection. I have a son who is 47 years old. So for the past 47 years, I have been advocating for his interest. And I was really struck by everything that everyone has said tonight, and especially Lee Davis and Kelly. You have hit the nail on the head with respect to the concerns that you have, because there are concerns that I have too. And I know that you mentioned, for example, that you're concerned about what will happen when you're no longer able to provide the support and care for your loved one. And I go through that process every day because, you know, I'm in my mid to late 70s and I have those same kinds of thoughts and concerns every day of my life. And what we need to accomplish here with respect to the long-term needs of our kids is to be able to advocate for greater funding so that the support services that we expect to be in place will be in place when they need to be in place. And for too long, for at least the last 2 decades, those support services have been inadequately funded. And now we have an opportunity, because I believe we have the attention of those in power, to get a significant increase to catch up for all of the underfunding that has occurred over the past 20 years. And right now, there are proposals that are being considered by the budgetary committees that would increase funding by a much needed 30%, when we have had virtually little over the past 20 years. And with that funding, we'll be able to provide decent, competitive wages for the direct support staff that are in charge of providing care for our kids. And right now, as has been mentioned, we're underfunded to the point that we're losing staff because they're going to better paying jobs and jobs that have less stress than what they're having to face in taking care of complex physical and medical and emotional needs of the folks that they serve. So, you know, it comes down to basic economics. If we want a place for our loved ones to go and be taken care of, there has to be adequate funding to make it happen. And so far it has not happened, but I think we have a golden opportunity now. The feedback that we have had from our letter writing campaign has been very positive, and we're only beginning. But we have targeted the key people on the budget committees in the state of Kansas, as well as our own local, state, and Senate representatives. And I think it's making a difference. We're very encouraged by what's happening. So if you'd like to join with us in that effort, you know, I invite you to do so. I will be happy to give you the information that we've accumulated, the key contact people that you need to reach, but now's the time to act, because this is going to be probably our best opportunity in 20 years to get the kind of funding that we need. And we have people that we know that are in key positions who do support and do have a soft place in their heart for our community. And this is the time that we need to act. So if that's okay, I will post my contact information in the chat. And if you wish to, you can contact me and I will be happy to supply you with the information that we've put together to help put a message in, and so that we have a voice in Topeka on this thing. This is really critical for everybody on this call and many more. And in addition to that, I must tell you that my son has been on the wait list for 7 years. And he was told 7 years ago that he would be covered in 7 years, and that's not going to happen. I don't know how long it will be, but he's having to private pay for his supports, and we don't know whether the money will run out before he gets services. So it's kind of a double whammy here, you know, with respect to the wait list as well as the capacity issues to be able to accommodate people who are coming into the system. That's a big issue.
Ron, can I say one other thing? And that, or a couple of
Eddie's
things.
got his
One of
hand
them
up.
is that we're, what
Eddie?
we're trying to accomplish, is get a bigger megaphone. So because the legislators say, well, we haven't heard about this before, and so many of them are new. There are legislators who have only been there a year, and we have to keep re-educating them. But as Ron stressed, we need to have a critical mass of people asking for pretty much the same thing. And one other thing that you may not know is that the providers in Kansas pay for their own advocacy group, which is called Interhab. And Interhab is in Topeka, run by a sterling guy whose name is Matt Fletcher. He knows more than anybody else who the key people are, how to approach them, and so forth. And he has been helping us with talking points and so forth. Ron can send you those talking points. Some of us are going to carpool to go to Topeka to talk with some of these people, but Ron is absolutely right. This is a good opportunity. Number one, to educate our legislators. I don't think any of them think that that there's anything they can do. And they may have a soft spot for our kids. They don't, nobody ever brings it up to them. So what we're asking is that all of you talk or email your own representative and your own senator, and then also the legislators that we will send you. These are the key decision makers in various committees. You don't have to be in their one of their constituents, but they need to hear from a lot of us. So, and any email that you send, which I think is the best way to get hold of them, is it needs to be brief. We've been told over and over again that any email that's over, 10 sentences, they just don't read. They just read the first couple of sentences. So you can be brief and concise, but make it personal. And all of you have given wonderful personal testimony to the rest of us about your kiddos' particular issues, and that's what you need to tell them. I'm done.
Eddie's had his hand up for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would commend everyone that's been trying to go through this political route to get additional funding. Personally, the cynical side of me says that's a long wait for a train that's not coming. And I don't want to sit and wait and hope that they will do the right thing. What I am looking for are people that want to get together to possibly try to create something for our kids. And if funding comes from the government, great. If it doesn't, then let's keep moving forward. Keep at the political side of it. Keep trying to get that funding, keep making those contacts. But I want people, personally, I'm looking for people that are interested in possibly creating something and not waiting for that.
So Eddie, one of the things that.
Oh,
Karen. Yeah, Karen actually has
And I really want to piggyback on what various other people have said. With the government, you have this turnover. And so you're going to have to re-educate all the time. And you can find sympathetic ears, but then like you said, if it gets to beyond February, then they've got everything else already set. And so there you are for another whole year because they're only in session until May. So I think what Eddie's point is a good one. Is there outside of government some, there are tons of foundations in the Kansas City area. Aren't there some foundations out there that might have, a special, place in their heart for our kids? I mean, that seems to me to be a place to look. I don't know. I really don't know.
Us. I mean, so Eddie brings out a good point, and I'm not dismissing any of the government thing because that's absolutely true. There is more money coming down because of administrations. I don't care what spectrum you're on, Republican or Democrat. This is a bipartisan approach that we're trying to do. There is more money disseminating from the federal government, which has direct, has effects on special needs care. One of the issues we run into is that the allocation of those funds, to try to control those allocations of funds, because these county commissioners have different agendas, right? There are thousands of programs. Now you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. We have talked to Johnson County Development Support. We talked to Shelley May, we talked to Chad, and we talked to them a couple of times, and they've given us a lot of information, a lot of it's around, but you got to, I mean, one of the things we found out really quick was that those priorities were contingent upon kind of the county's needs. And what I meant by that is that they really pointed towards more of the mental component of that, geriatric care. There was behavioral issues. So there were all these nuances. So when you think of, we all been part of government, agencies, right? Or insurance, right? All these codes, right? that are put into place. And so it creates a lot of complexity. I think what we're trying to do, and listen, I'm not trying to buck anybody's process or whatever. One of the problems, I think, and we have all seen it in autism care or autism approaches, and the reason why there's so much stagnation in it is because everyone's trying to do their own thing, right? We've seen it for years. And that's why there's two major autism groups, right? That's why there's two major autism groups versus like Down syndrome. You have the Down syndrome guild. It's one organization. They have one purpose. It's very defined. So I agree with what Eddie was saying, and I'll just give you a real quick example. I'll flip it over to Michelle because her hand's up. My parents did a nonprofit. They were on a cause of trying to do get a park in their facility or in their city. And the reality was that it wasn't just, it was a combination of fundraising, grant writing, getting the proper council people in, political people, doing campaigns, going to door. So it was like a combination of all that, but they had a singular purpose. And that's really what we were talking about, is that we just want a facility where our kids can stay at, we can get great care, and they can have fun, and we have a bus that comes and picks them up if they want to go to some facility like Pizza Hut and go work there or whatever, or that's all we want. It's not super complicated. You're on mute, so I'll go on mute.
But the reality is, I mean, like I was flipping through Zillow, there was a house that has 8 bedrooms. I mean, they're small, but literally Eddie and I were like, oh, maybe we should buy that and we should start our own home. Because at this point, that's where we are at. Because there aren't places that we have found for Sean. And I can't imagine splitting the twins up as they continue to grow up. So, I mean, they're 23. We are looking to create something right now.
Well, start the creation process. I mean, everybody has always said, ever since we got the diagnosis, I mean, when they get later on in life, you don't want them living at home with you forever, because when we pass, then it is just a huge culture shock for them. And that is going to be a disaster. We need a place for them to live independent, with as much independence as possible outside of mom and dad's home, so that they can continue to lead a normal life when we are no longer here.
And that takes a community, not just one set of parents doing it for others. It's all the parents working together to create that community and that assistance for each other and their children.
And so I was really hoping that a couple people would have joined us tonight. One is, and you might all know these families, Betsy Gage is the mom of Craig Chase. And so they actually bought a house and was able to remodel or whatever they had to do with the house. But then they were able to get services for the house from an existing residential care service facility who just added their staff to that house. So that's one family who I was hoping would be joining tonight to share their experience. The other is, and Casey, maybe you can help me. We were talking about Dave Polin, who did quite a bit of research in residential care services eventually for his son. And so I know that he just has a wealth of knowledge and experience in doing that type of research. But I'm hoping that, as we continue this series after March, that they can help us work through those ideas and information.
Marna, those are good ideas. And I think I know who you're speaking of, who actually had a home that they owned and provided a support system for their child and some others. However, it still depends upon a support staff to deliver those services. And that's where we're at. That's where the challenge is. And I also wanted to follow up. I saw a note here from Casey, and it had to do with where the funding dollars go. And I'm not sure whether I understand this correctly or not, but it seems like there was some feeling that funds flowed to management as opposed to the workers. And I'm not familiar with that.
It flowed to the agencies. So the TA waiver also has, call it middle management, if you will, but we have nurses who come into our home to take care of our daughter. Those nurses are employed by agencies, much like a lot of these other direct care support workers are, whether it's helpers or somebody else.
Right.
We advocated for a very large increase to the TA waiver reimbursement for nursing services. And the majority of that increase was stuck with administration, and it did not go to the actual people providing the direct care. So nurses didn't get a raise. Nurses continued to get the same low level of pay that Lee was talking about. On our waiver, that's $19 an hour. $19 an hour to take care of someone who has a trach, a G-tube, a vent. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I don't have a lot of faith that the trickle-down theory is actually going to work no matter what we're talking about, because these agencies have also been starved for a long time too.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I listened to the testimonies that were given before the budget committees this past on the 19th. And here's what I do know from that testimony is that in the 7% increase that was granted, that went 97% of those dollars went to payroll of direct support staff.
And I'm telling you, when I asked nurses and families if that increase happened, the resounding answer was no.
Well, I'm only going on the testimony of Interhab and all of the other people from various organizations who testified that that's how the funds were distributed. Because one of the questions came from one of the members of the Appropriations Committee is how much of this of these funds went directly to direct support staff? And the answer was 97%.
I hope that happens on the TA waiver with that increase. It did not. In fact, there was an entire agency of staff and workers in Topeka through Craig Home Care that walked out one day. Everyone walked because they found out that that increase was not going to be passed on to the nurses. So maybe, I hope that that's different. Kathy Keck is the chair of the DD Council right now. She's the parent chair. We are now currently testifying to get a percentage cap or something to control some of that money, not wholly being absorbed by the middle management or the MCOs. So I hope that that works, Ron. I don't have a lot of faith because we just went through this last summer and families were very angry. They were all testifying we got the increase and it didn't happen.
I have a thought there. I really sympathize and empathize with all of you who just want to bypass all the bureaucracy of, getting set up through the state. And so I have a suggestion that a small group of you or everybody actually sits down and gathers the information that you would need to start a separate either organization or a separate home. You have to go through some pretty hoops, but I think it would be a useful thing to do because you need to know what certifications you need, what the zoning rules are, what liability insurance you might need. This is probably not true if the only people in the house are your own children. But if you are inviting anybody else to be a part of this house, that would entail more, bureaucracy in itself. But I do recommend that you do it because I remember when I was trying to find something for my kiddo, and there were waiting lists everywhere. This was 25 years ago. My husband and I met with 3 other sets of parents and said, let's start our own. This is, we're going to wait forever. And so I get the impetus of what you're going to do. So I'd say go for it. Sit down, decide what you need in order to do this.
Dana, and then Sanjukta.
Yeah, I think I'm concerned that even if the funding does trickle down, that there isn't something that I am aware of in our community that exists for people with profound needs. And I think that's kind of what Eddie and Michelle are talking about is like, even if there is more money, where do our kids go? Because a lot of places don't want to take them. And I'm even challenged by the 18 to 21 program because my son needs such intensive supports that, they're kind of like thinking that he'll just be babysat as an adult. And I have these bigger visions that I want him to participate in the community and be well supported and all of his medical needs met. But that place doesn't exist. And so I'm in the realm of like something will have to be created. It's not already there.
Yeah. And Dana, you make a great point. I mean, the reality is this, we all go to Church of the Resurrection, main campus. We see it. We live right by it. Johnson County has plenty of money, folks. They have plenty of money. Okay. The reality is that if you don't live in Johnson County, we go to some of the satellite campuses. I don't know if any of you guys do or not, but all around, Adam talks about it, right? Mini mansions, all this other stuff. We have plenty of tax dollars going out. My point being is that we can maintain this within Johnson County, okay? Because that's really, so, again, I'm not saying, hey, come join with us. That's what Jen, Kelly, and I are doing, is that we want to focus on Johnson County. Because what I've learned from my parents who have been doing advocacy and stuff for 60 years, you start small, you start focused, because you try to boil the ocean, you just can't do it. It's just really difficult to do it. And I think of like Church of the Resurrection, how Adam started in a funeral home, right? And then how that grew and grew. So that's kind of how I look at this. Is it the right way? I don't know. It's just something that I know I can focus on. Our small little group that has kids that are in a lot of need. Elliot's 14, and 5-10 years is going to come no matter if I like it or not. It's going to come. It doesn't matter what I do. So we've got to put something in place. And I think the, you know, I saw in chat, I think Jen was talking about, isn't there an old building that Johnson County can, you know,
Give us.
repurpose as some sort of workshop? I mean, there are already buses that charter different, you know, kids to different areas. I mean, we have a bus that comes and picks up Elliot. I mean, so there are already things in place. Just try to reorganize them. But I'll shut up there. I know there's a lot of people want to talk. So.
Now, I think the one thing that, you know, Lee and Kelly and I have spoke about often is that if we're able to do this together, there's so many things that we learn from one another as parents. You know, who are the right medical providers? Who are the right therapists? You know, people that want to work with kids like ours. You know, they wouldn't mind being in a community so they can support each other too. So if we have this vision of a place that, you know, those angels that we've met throughout this crazy journey, you know, bring them to a place where they want to work, right? And yeah, they're going to probably not get paid enough from the county or the state once they, get off, once I get off the waiver, whenever that might be. But, you know, we're going to supplement as much as we can. We can fundraise for funds to pay them directly. I mean, I think, Eddie, you know, you're spot on. I think that we're all kind of in the same boat. I'm so proud to hear all the work that that others are doing at the state level. And I thank you for that and for being champions. You know, I know that you guys have been down this road a lot longer than we have. And, you know, we've talked to folks and it is discouraging. It's frustrating. I'm sure you guys have been in this boat. It sounds like trying to advocate and get this done for us. And I just feel really lucky that Lee has these connections with the commissioners, and maybe it won't go anywhere, but maybe it will. I mean, they were very willing to talk to us, and I do feel like we should make some ask of them. I mean, they've offered to have us talk to the commissioners, and they want to hear our stories. And so, you know, beyond just writing letters, I plan to bring my children to that meeting. You know, maybe they're only there for 1 to 2 minutes because that probably will be all that it will take. But I think we should do videos. I think we should bring the kids, because when they hear our stories, you know, like when we told them about how he'd slept on the couch for 3 years because he was afraid Ellie was going to run off down the street, which has happened. You know, those types of stories shock people. And unfortunately, they're the saddest moments of our lives. But I think if we keep telling them those, they're going to have a really hard time saying no. So I feel like if we get even, you know, what are we, 10 strong on here? You know, we obviously can't tell all our stories, but I think if we kind of talk about this, talk about that, you know, we moved here because of the school district. And then after 21, there's this huge drop off. You know, we're all here in this community because of the school district supporting our children. And then after 21, oh, well, you're on your own and you get to be on this wonderful wait list for 1 million years. I mean, that just doesn't make sense. So we need to make these people understand. And I think our stories are what they need to hear. And I think they told us that. So I think right now we have an opportunity to talk to some of the commissioners, but I think maybe we do ask people for videos. So we can, you know, if we can't have everyone tell their stories, we could ask for a video telling some of those stories and provide those to the commissioners so they can review them and, you know, in their own settings, whether it be at home or whatever. Because I think those are the things that are going to move the needle for us.
Jen, I do think that we need to come together as a consolidated group and not all be off doing our own thing. And I feel like we do need one person or a couple of people to help lead us and guide us in terms of next steps. I mean, I've heard some great ideas, but I could go off in one direction, and I'm going to pick a couple people's names. Casey could go off in another direction, and Lee and Kelly could go in another direction, and we're not going to make any headway without us all coming together and really, like one of my bosses says, we need to develop a plan and stick to the plan and execute the plan.
Sanjukta, you had your hand up.
Yes. You know, what Michelle and Eddie said, I am 100% with that, because our concern, and we are on the way to on the IDD waiver for like last after 7 years, from when he was 14, we are getting the services, but we did not have any good luck with HelperSync. So that didn't help us very much. And so, like, I know with the day services and the residential services, we won't have any good luck with those two because our kids are very severe and very low functioning. So if we can make our own residential services or make our own home where we can monitor from a little closer, not leaving them to a residential facilities where we won't be able to know that what is going on with them because they can't tell us really. So is there anything we can do to move in that direction? I understand this legislative part and all that, but as a parent, what can we do to move in that direction? Whatever Eddie said, you know, this is our ultimate goal, to keep them near us, not sending him to a facility. So.
I think the easiest thing to do to move in that direction is basically get a contact list of everybody that's interested in moving in that direction. And then we start to meet, we start to set goals, and, you know, we meet regularly, hold each other accountable, set goals, and just start moving forward. You just take it one step at a time like you do with any task. But we just need those individuals that are interested and willing to start meeting regularly to work towards that.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I mean, that's the goal. I mean,
think
it's
Gail said that we will be needing people. Yeah, we'll be needing people. That's for sure. The therapist and people, and nobody is really willing to work with our kids for a long time. Maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then they give up, even with the money. So this is the most important thing. How do we find people? So
You pay them well. You pay them more than anybody else is willing to.
yeah, that's the only thing.
Yeah, the organization, I mean, it's one of these things that I know that I knew before. I said a prayer even before this meeting, right? I know that there was, I wouldn't say, let me just put, I mean, there might be some healthy tension, right, among the group, because people have different ideas. We're talking about our children. Yeah, we might all come from the same church, but we're talking about our children, and you have different views on how you want to approach that. So I think what Kelly and I and Jen will do is just say, you know, we have a flyer. It's not that, hey, this is the best way that we're doing. It's our mission statement is pretty simple. So we'll present that, and if you guys want to contact us, then that's fine. I mean, it's not like we're the leaders, right? It's just that's kind of what our idea is. And for anyone that wants to contact us, feel free to contact us. And the big keys that my parents have always told me about organizations like this, community activism, or whatever you want to call it, is be positive, be persistent, and then be on time. Those are the three things. They take a long time.
So even though I have this meeting going until 8, I don't think we will be sticking around until 8, although we are having wonderful conversations. So I'm listening and I'm getting the messages. And I'm chatting with folks, on staff, and I will not have the answers, which is why I'm, having these meetings so that we can share things with one another. But I think we have at least voiced our concerns, right? Which was my goal with having this first meeting. I would love to get some input from those folks who have walked these roads already, because I think that is critical for us to learn from them and to know, what has not been done or what has been done and what has worked. So that would be at least my next step, but I would need serious input from all of you. So I see that that we have some requests for sharing names and emails. So thank you so much for putting this in the chat. I am saving this chat, by the way. And like I said, I'm recording this meeting. So we will have a record of everything that happened here tonight so that we can go over that and share some more information. So I would suggest that unless anybody else has some thoughts that they wanted to share, that maybe we close it out for tonight. And then I know that probably although Ash Wednesday is extremely important, it does, put a little bit of a hold on our discussion, but I would love for our discussion to continue via email if there's still information that we can add and can share. So let's plan on doing that. I see, Laura, I love your idea with, putting in a plan in place and having a goal. And I think maybe Eddie and Michelle also mentioned that, just taking these little steps and getting together often and just like I keep on saying, moving that needle forward. So we'll try and put that in place. I will try and facilitate that as much as I can from my end. But I'm gonna need some help from you parents to answer some of those questions and sharing that information. So with that, is there anything else that that anybody still need to share tonight, or shall we adjourn this meeting and then plan the next one?
That sounds like a good recap. I mean, it feels like an end to the meeting. I'll just say that. And then I think, having the list of people, and there might be, Marna, more people that couldn't make it tonight that hopefully will view this and will reach out and want to be part of that discussion in the future too.
Absolutely. You know what, Casey, that is a great idea. I might just share this meeting with our families and have them, just see what has been said, and then we'll take it from there. All right.
Hey Marna, I know I always talk about Doc Hunsley, but this would be another great one to get Doc and his church involved also, because it's not just about our core families. And for anybody that doesn't know Doc, he lost a son to Dravet syndrome. I'm probably not pronouncing it right. He is now he has a special needs program at Grace Church, and they do a vacation Bible camp for kids. That is phenomenal for our population. And I know he's a huge advocate for our families too. And so he may have some resources. And I know, Marty, you and I are talking, I think, next week. So that may be another thought process. The other thing I would recommend is Special Olympics for any of the families who aren't involved in Special Olympics. It's a great outlet for our kids as well as for us. I know, so I can go there in a very, very bad mood for something that's happened. And I can tell you, I did Jexercise with about 15 Special Olympics kids last week, and every one of us left with a smile on our face. Probably mine was the biggest. So remember to look for those kind of opportunities for our families also. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about Special Olympics because I'm on that board also. And I'm helping with the Vacation Bible School planning. So if you want to participate in that, let me know. So I maybe not as much on the legislation side, but I've been more on the day-to-day living for today.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, that's super helpful. Yes, and I'm actually going to meet with Doc when we can get our calendars to get some availability. So thank you for that. All righty. Okay, so let's adjourn, and then we'll continue this, like I said, on email and for the time being until we can get together again. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Marna.
Have a good night. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Marna.
Marta.
Thank you.
Oh my God. So